If you're thinking about making a move here to the Temecula Valley, watch this video. We're going to talk about the 5 worst things about living here in Temecula, California. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hey guys, hey again, my name is Justin Short. I am a realtor and team leader for the Short Real Estate team here in the Murrieta and Temecula Valley. We are trying to keep these videos coming for you guys once per week and trying to give you a really good perspective on what it's actually like to live here in the Temecula Murrieta Valley. So we have videos each week. We're going to talk about market updates, what's going on here in the real estate market, what part of town you want to live in, what part of town you don't want to live in, some pros and cons and differences between Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, and some of the surrounding areas. And today we are going to talk about the 5 worst things about living here in Temecula. So I've lived here in the Valley for over 20 years. I mean, I went to high school out here. I've lived here a long time, and I think I can give you a really, really good perspective on what it's like for someone local that actually lives here, and talk about some of the worst things. So a lot of the other videos talk about all the pros, right? How great it is. We're in Southern California. There's a ton of sun. It's great central location to other parts of Southern California, and hopefully there's going to paint a big positive picture, right? And so I want to take this video and really just talk about some of the negatives. So when you guys are reaching out to me, you've had a lot of people reach out lately, and they're asking about, well, what are the good parts, but what are the bad parts, right? What do we want to stay away from? Why would we not want to live here in town? So hopefully this will give you guys a really good perspective. But first couple things, if you are liking the videos, please go ahead and hit like. Please go ahead and hit subscribe. Helps me, helps the channel. Obviously, that's why I'm doing this. It helps my business. If you guys have any questions or anything I can do to help in the real estate side of things, if you are thinking about making a move here, if you're thinking about making a move out of the area, would love to hear from you. You can feel free to call, text, email. I have a lot of people that reach out to me each week, and I definitely love chatting with you guys and hopefully give you some good perspective on what it's like to actually live here, and hopefully give you some good information and help you with your home search here. So hopefully we'd love to hear from more of you guys. So we'll go ahead and kind of get into the video here. And then first it's a disclaimer. So this video is about the 5 worst things about living here, but I live here in the Temecula Valley. I've lived here in Temecula, Murrieta for over 20 years. It's where I plan to live for the next 20 years. We own properties here. We raise our family here. Our kids go to the local public schools. I love living here in the Temecula Murrieta Valley. So I just want to give that as a disclaimer because we've made some other videos and people kind of come after me and feel like I'm trashing the area, and that's not the goal, right? I love living here in Southern California. I love living here in Temecula Murrieta, but I'm trying to give some good perspective on some cons, because bottom line, no city is going to be perfect. So no city anywhere in the nation is the most amazing place to live. Everyone's gonna have pros and cons. So some price points going to be lower than others. Some weather's going to be different than others. Some people are going to like more green, some are going to like more sun. I mean, it's just there's a wide array of different cities in the country, but that's my disclaimer. I love living here, but there are some cons that we want to go over. So we're talking about again, the 5 worst things. We're going to start at number 5 and kind of work our way down. So the 5th worst thing about living here in the Temecula Valley is just the traffic. So we're in Southern California. We're famous for having a ton of traffic here locally, and the Temecula Murrieta Valley is really going to be right in the heart of that. So basically, you have rush hour traffic. So most people live here in the valley and commute out. So they commute to San Diego, LA, Orange County. So there's not a ton of major job industry here. So people live here and they drive out. So it's a big bedroom community. Because of that, at rush hour in the morning, or especially in the evening, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, there's a ton of traffic, ton of cars on the freeway, and it's going to make that commute a lot longer if you have to commute at during those rush hour times. And then also on the weekend, over the last couple of years, we've got a ton more traffic as well, people getting out of town. So especially in the summer, people live here and they're trying to get out to the beach for the weekend trip or for the day trip, or get up to the mountains or the desert or whatever it is they're going to do. So Saturday and Sunday come 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, when everyone's kind of rushing to get out, the freeways get pretty jammed. So especially going south, there's a lot of traffic. So it's just something to know we're in Southern California. It's famous for having a ton of traffic for a reason. the 15 freeway, 215 freeway, they're going to get locked up. There's going to be a lot of traffic, and it's just something to know about living here. So point number 4, so the fourth worst thing about living here in Temecula is there's just not a ton of large employing companies. So most people, like I mentioned a second ago, most people live here and commute out. San Diego, LA, Orange County. Over the last couple of years since COVID, so many more people are working from home, are working remote, and if you can do that, that is awesome. So I think that's really the dream scenario for most people, right? You don't have to sit on the freeway, you don't have to get jammed up in the traffic, and you can get a lot more of your life back. But most people do live here and they commute out. So the reason for that is because there's not a ton of jobs here. So there is a ton of the main employers here locally is like Pachanga Casino, and then a ton of medical employees. So that would be like medical offices, dental offices, doctors, nurses, RNs, medical staff, the admin staff. There's a ton of medical. There's a ton of police, sheriff. There's government employees, teachers, school district employees. There's going to be people that work for the city, firefighters. There's all those employees. There's a ton of jobs for all that here locally, yes. But as far as big businesses, it's not like there's a big manufacturer, like a big tech company or something like that. So that's probably to me, it's the fourth biggest con is there's just not that big employer here locally. Most people are going to go out for work or work at something that's more like kind of residential specific, hospitals, doctors, county and city employees, that type of stuff. But a big employing company, not really out there. So that's number 4. So point number 3, the third worst part about living here in Temecula is you really are, although we are within driving distance to many, many different activities, we're really not next to anything. So really what that means is we're about an hour commute from downtown San Diego, from most of the beaches in Orange County, from Disneyland to the desert, going out to like Palm Springs area, a little bit longer to get out to the mountains, or a little bit longer to get out to LA. So, but because of that, they're all real easy day trips, right? You can access all those areas real easily, but it's not right next door, right? You can't just walk down to the beach. You can't just walk down to like a major city, metropolis. There's not like a major downtown area. Temecula has an old town area, but you're about an hour away from any of those big activities. So for me, I think that's really a pro for a lot of people. It's where it's all accessible, really in a really easy day trip. You and family, friends, whatever, can really access it. But because it's not right next door, some people that are used to living in a big city, that seems like a huge distance, and it's not. That's a big con for them. So I want to make sure I mention that. The second worst part about living here in Temecula, California is there's just not a ton of rain. So last year, I pulled the stats of last year, for the entire year, we only had just under 10 inches of rain here in Temecula. So that's not very much. It's a very dry climate. That can be a pro for a lot of people. Yes, if you're used to living up in Northern California or Pacific Northwest or somewhere in the Midwest, right, and you are trying to get more sunny Southern California. But if you are hoping for a little bit more turn to season, you want to see all 4 seasons, you're really not going to have much of that here, right? So when we only get 10 inches of rain, there's been droughts over the last several years, I guess really the last decade. I know we're in a drought again now. That's not really affecting us like on our water bills here, but most of Southern California is being affected by drought. A few years ago, we had a lot of regulations about how much you can water the grass, what you can do, what you can't do. So that's going to be a con, right? It's just not a ton of rain here in Southern California, right? And then for me, the number 1, so the worst thing about living here in Temecula is going to be the temperature. I mean, it's hot. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. It's a hot area to live. I think for a lot of people that's going to be a pro, but that is also, I think it's the biggest con about living here. So the average temperature in August and September is actually 89 degrees. So when we get a heat wave, that means we're going up to 100, 103, 104, 105. That'll happen a couple times a year, for maybe 3, 4, 5 days. And it's hot. Do you acclimate to it? Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I've lived here a long time. For me, 90 degrees in the summer is super, super comfortable. comfortable. You can go outside, it feels good, you get some sun. I think it's a real comfortable temperature, but especially a lot of people are used to a different area, it can be hot for them. You know, like we have family that lives in San Diego, which is more about 70 degrees pretty much every day. When they come up here and it's 90 in summer, and they're like sweating profusely, they gotta be in the shade, they need like a fan, like they're just not used to it. So it's definitely a little bit of a warmer climate. And then something to point out with that is, although it is hot out here, yes, it is a dry heat. So it's not like living in like the South, or Florida, Texas, you know, Alabama, something like that, where it's super, super humid down there, where you walk out, right, you feel like you can cut it with a knife, right, the humidity and super moist. It's a very dry heat here. So as far as warm temperatures go, I think it's pretty doable, pretty comfortable. That's just something to know and compare to. And then one other thing that I think is a plus there as far as temperature is in the evening. So it can be 100 degrees say we get a little heat wave in the afternoon, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. By the time later in the day comes, around 6:30, we get a really, really nice breeze. So if you look at a map kind of directly, you know, straight as a bird flies, as they say, from here to the coast, it's really not that far. So what happens, we get a lot of that ocean breeze that comes over the hills, over the mountains, over the plateau, and really in the evening, 6 o'clock, 6:30, really takes off a lot of the heat and really cools down the area. So like one of our favorite things to do as a family with our kids is we'll sit outside with the kids at night, let them play out in the street with the neighbors and in the cul-de-sac and all that type of stuff. And by about 6:30, you can sit out. It's super comfortable. They're out there playing. You can sit out in your shorts and a chair and hang out, and it's not hot at all. It cools down. You can sit out. You go to a restaurant or something, you can sit out on the patio. It's really nice. You get a nice little breeze, and I think it makes it super. I think it's a big plus, right? I think it's one of our favorite things to do, and it's nice that it cools down. So as opposed to some of the other areas that are more true desert, like say out in Palm Springs or out in Las Vegas, where you'll go out there, it'll get 100, 105, 110 during the day, and at 8 o'clock at night, it's still 100, right? It's still super, super hot. It never cools down. You don't get that breeze. So here, what's nice is it is a dry heat, and as it gets later in the evening, the breeze comes and really cools it down and makes it real comfortable. So to me, those are the 5 worst things about living here in Temecula. So number 5, the traffic. Number 4, there's just not a ton of large employers. Number 3, there's about a 1-hour commute to pretty much any of the big stuff around in Southern California. Number 2, not a ton of rain. And number 1, it's hot. So hopefully that helps you guys. Hopefully it's a really good perspective on what it's like to actually live here. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. Again, if you're liking the videos, please hit like, please hit subscribe. We'd love to hear from more from you guys, and hopefully talk to you soon. Thanks.